Race for President of the United States. The current sitting president is running for re-election. 3.5 months from the election, he decides not to run. The sitting vice president then takes the mantle, running against a former president of the United States who had been running for 10 years with 107 days.
People didn't used to get sick of the candidates because you barely ever saw them unless you happened to be standing at the back end of a train. But now we never stop seeing them. The winner in modern elections comes down to who we're less tired of.
Bill Maher just went after Kamala Harris with full fireworks, and the whole segment was pure comedy gold. The outspoken host broke down what he sees as her ongoing missteps and disconnect with the public. Maher's takedown was sharp, punchy, and genuinely hilarious. It's definitely worth a watch.
Biden was still hanging on to be the candidate. Many of the pundits said that to switch him out this late would cause chaos. Yeah, that was never my position. And indeed, what happened was Kamala Harris said, "Oh, look, I guess it's my turn." And the next day, a grateful nation handed her $500 million. The only reason we stay stuck in permanent campaign mode is money. It's estimated this year that $16 billion will be spent on political ads. It's time we admit that the endless campaign exists only to enrich advertisers, political consultants, and what's left of the news media.
The DNC never seriously assessed the risks before elevating Kamala Harris as the 2024 nominee. The underlying issues started well before her selection. Joe Biden declined to step aside early, and the DNC continued backing him until his disastrous debate performance forced a last-minute scramble. When Harris was brought in as the replacement, party leaders tried to counter the turmoil by giving her a massive campaign war chest, hoping money alone would steady the ship. But it barely made a difference. The surge in funding didn't solve the messaging problems, ease voter worries, or rebuild trust. In the end, the whole process felt like a rushed gamble that never had a clear path to holding on to power.
To know Kamala isn't bad, it's great. Great for her, great for the country. People didn't used to get sick of the candidates because you barely ever saw them unless you happened to be standing at the back end of a train. But now we never stop seeing them. The winner in modern elections comes down to who we're less tired of. They're just constantly on us. TV, radio, the mail, on our phones, texting. Hey, Bill, Tim Wall's here. You up? They're everywhere all the time. Jesus Christ, fuck off. Let mommy put her purse down.
Here, Maher is pushing back against Kamala Harris's defenders, who argue that voters simply didn't have enough time to get to know her because her campaign was relatively short. But Maher isn't convinced, and realistically, neither should anyone else. Harris had nearly $500 million at her disposal, an enormous budget by any standard. She poured a huge share of it into constant campaign ads, celebrity endorsements, and tightly managed public appearances. A-list stars with massive followings blasted her image and slogans across their feeds, saturating social media from every angle. Visibility wasn't the problem. If anything, it was overexposure. Voters saw plenty of Harris, her message, her branding, her symbolism. The issue wasn't that people didn't get to know her, as Maher suggests. The real problem is that many voters were exhausted by her long before Election Day arrived.
Her new book said it was, quote, recklessness for former President Biden's allies to leave the decision about running for re-election up to him and his family. Do you agree with her? Was it recklessness?
Look, I wasn't there, Kristen, on this, and I think the president, again, got us through COVID, ushered us through, brought the economy back from the edge. I think there's question about this, and I want to be very clear. On me talking about the MRI, ageism is a real thing. Ableism is a real thing that we need to be careful of with people, and I think Donald Trump made a cottage industry out of attacking Joe Biden's competency, and it seemed like that got...
Here we go with the dilly-dallying again. The question was straightforward, yet Tim Walz still managed to dance around it like he was auditioning for a political talent show. Kamala Harris had already made her position clear. She blamed Joe Biden's inner circle for letting the decision to stay in the race rest entirely with Biden and, by extension, his family. In her view, they should have stepped in sooner, taken responsibility, and spared the party the chaos that followed. In other words, Harris is pointing to Biden's lateness and indecision as a key factor in her eventual loss. But instead of engaging with that, Tim Walz tries to redirect the blame toward Donald Trump, as if Trump somehow engineered the Democratic Party's own internal missteps. It's a fascinating deflection and a convenient way to avoid acknowledging that the dysfunction came from inside the House.
History will determine that. What I do know is that going forward, we need somebody in office who's actually going to tackle the things Americans need, whether it's about costs or whether it's about our national security needs and honoring those with our allies. And I think maybe there's a lesson to be learned from what happened with President Biden. If that's the case, it should certainly be applied right now to this president who is putting Americans at risk, is reckless, and is not doing what he's...
And here we go again with the usual anti-Trump fixation. For whatever reason, some people just can't keep Trump out of the conversation, even when he has nothing to do with the topic at hand. But did you catch the subtle slip in Tim Walz's remarks? While he was busy taking his routine swipe at Trump, he also quietly tossed Joe Biden under the bus. It was subtle, but unmistakable. When Walz said there's a lesson to be learned from President Biden, he wasn't offering praise. He was signaling that Biden mishandled the transition and probably should have stepped aside much earlier. It's an indirect nod to the growing Democratic narrative that Biden's hesitation and slow decision-making contributed to the party's collapse. So while Walz tried to distract with yet another Trump reference, he ended up confirming the very criticism Harris and others have been pushing all along.
Has left the door open to potentially run for office again. Do you still think she's the strongest person to run for president in 2028?
Well, I'm glad she's out there, and I'm glad a whole lot of other people are out there, because I think Donald Trump sucks up so much oxygen. We need to have the Democratic Party out on the field, the broad, inclusive Democratic Party, talking about making life more affordable, talking about protecting freedoms, and I think Kamala Harris does a wonderful job with that. If she chooses to run, that betters all of us. We will have the process. We'll go through. I'm sure there'll be a lot of folks throw their hat into the ring, but that's good, and we need to make sure that we're providing the alternative that America's asking.
So now it's pretty clear why Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz as her running mate. Just like Harris, he's skilled at sidestepping direct questions as if honesty were some kind of political landmine. When he was asked a simple yes or no question about whether he thinks Harris would be a strong candidate in 2028, he couldn't bring himself to give a straight answer, and that hesitation speaks volumes. His refusal points to one of two possibilities: either he no longer believes Harris is viable as a future nominee, or he's intentionally keeping the field open for whoever emerges as the next rising star in the party. Personally, I suspect it's the former. Harris's 2024 performance damaged her credibility, and many within the Democratic establishment had already whispered that she'd be a weak contender in 2028. Walz likely knows that, too. His dodge wasn't just political caution, it was a quiet acknowledgement that the party is already looking beyond Harris, even if no...
...that I'm proud of. I think, did it break through enough? Obviously not, but it's still a message that works, making sure that America is affordable for all, people feel included, and we tackle the tough.
And that's exactly what Maher has been arguing all along. Most Americans couldn't connect with Kamala Harris's message because there was nothing in it that resonated with their everyday reality. It wasn't that voters lacked interest or refused to give her a chance. She had countless opportunities, interviews, rallies, televised statements, and national moments where all eyes were on her. But instead of offering clear, grounded points, Harris often drifted into stretches of word salad and puzzling logic that left people more confused than informed. Viewers didn't walk away inspired. They walked away trying to decipher what she had just said. Maher's criticism points to a deeper issue. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about making people feel understood. Harris frequently sounded detached, scripted, or stuck in cycles of vague rhetoric that aimed for depth, but offered little in the way of concrete meaning. Many Americans couldn't make sense of her explanations, and eventually, they stopped trying.
Lost.
There are many factors, I think, that played into the outcome of that election, but I think probably one of the biggest in my mind is we just didn't have enough time.
You didn't have
We didn't
enough
have
what?
enough time. We didn't have enough time.
Oh, yeah. Well, you didn't.
And, you know, I mean, one of the reasons I wrote the book is this is unprecedented. Think about this.
Yeah.
That there's a race for president of the United States. The current sitting president is running for re-election. 3.5 months from the election, he decides not to run. The sitting vice president then takes the mantle, running against a former president of the United States who had been running for 10 years with 107.
At this point, it's fair to say that critics argue Kamala Harris often adjusts her messaging in ways that seem designed to steady her campaign narrative. Her latest claim, that Donald Trump had an advantage simply because he was a former president, falls apart the moment you apply the same logic to her own situation. She was the sitting vice president while running. If prior status is supposed to offer a built-in political edge, then she had one as well, arguably an even larger one. What makes her argument even more ironic, critics contend, is the history she leaves out from her own time in office. They argue that Democrats spent years attacking Trump politically and that the legal controversies surrounding him frequently influenced the election landscape. He was mocked, painted as unfit, dismissed as dangerous, and tied to a steady stream of scandals. All narratives that critics say shaped the political environment long before the campaign.
Piece of what is unprecedented and a bit historical about that race, it is the closest presidential race in the 21st century in terms of the outcome.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, say that again, because he likes to say over and over again he's got a mandate.
And that's part of why I wrote this book, because history will talk about this race. It is part of American history. And it was important to me that when history is written, that my voice be present about what that experience is.
Sometimes I honestly wonder what the audience hears before applauding Kamala Harris, because she rarely delivers anything that feels genuinely deep or grounded. But that's beside the point. The reason many believe Trump earned a mandate in 2024 has less to do with speeches and more to do with results. He secured 312 electoral votes to Harris's 226 and, for the first time in 2 decades, won the national popular vote. Beyond the numbers, Trump's victory reflected shifting demographics and voting patterns. Exit polls indicated he improved with several minority voter groups compared with his previous runs and gained support from new or returning voters frustrated with economic issues like inflation and the cost of living. For many Americans, his win signaled a rejection of the status quo, rising prices, economic uncertainty, and frustration with the party in power. That sense of discontent, not just enthusiasm for Trump, helped turn the election into what many now interpret as a mandate. In the end, the story is straightforward. Kamala Harris struggled to connect, communicate, or persuade voters. No amount of applause or celebrity endorsements could change that. Her message felt vague, her delivery confusing, and her campaign unfocused. Meanwhile, Trump capitalized on a frustrated electorate, economic anxiety, and shifting voter coalitions to secure a decisive win. His victory wasn't just a political comeback, it reflected a broader rejection of the country's direction. The contrast between clarity and confusion, between momentum and mismanagement, ultimately shaped the outcome. And no amount of post-election spin can rewrite that reality, and that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this.